Right, Sophie, this is your EandA for A2PE. You've observed performance in your discipline of cross-country of a performer through video analysis, and you've been asked to come up with strengths and weaknesses in order, and then come up with some form of action plan to improve the person's performance, and then link your sport to the rest of the syllabus in terms of A2PE. So first of all, can you tell me what the strengths that you managed to find from the observation?
So when observing the candidate, I noticed that cardiovascular fitness was one of the major strengths, which is pretty compulsory in cross-country running. I noticed it by, as they were running, they never tended to slow down, the pace stayed consistent throughout, and also towards the end they managed to pick up the pace even more, which shows that the cardiovascular fitness is high. You never really seen them drastically slow down at any point, which again shows the consistency of the cardiovascular fitness. Which it's important because when competing against someone, there might be an individual who isn't as good, so that individual might not be able to pick up the pace towards the end, which shows they do have a weaker cardiovascular fitness. Another one that the candidate had was running the tangent. So this is a tactic used in cross-country running. So this is when the candidate stays closest to the inside of the tape as possible in order to take the shortest route. So this would outwit their opponents, because if they're doing the shortest route possible, then they're running essentially less miles, and therefore going to outwit the opponent. Now the final one is speed. You can tell that the candidate has good speed because as they're running, like although it's not really a speed-based finger, when it comes to like overtaking an opponent or running up a hill, you see them put in little surges, and it makes them cover the ground quicker, making it easier to actually get across the course. Without speed, the candidate would be looking like sluggish and it'd be harder to get through the mud.
Okay, good. Can you give any explanations as to the importance of those strengths that you just identified to the performer, or why it might be bad for an opposition if they've got it?
So the importance of cardiovascular fitness is pretty essential. Without cardiovascular fitness, you're not even going to be able to cover the distances required. So the average time you're going to be running is around 30 minutes. So if you've not got that cardiovascular fitness, you're not going to be able to cover, or if you are, it's going to be at a pretty slow pace. You're not going to be able to beat the opponent. So running the tangents is essential for the performer, because if you wasn't doing that and you're taking the longest route possible, that gives your opponent a chance to overtake you. You're running the outside, it makes them easier to overtake you. Now the final one, speed. Speed's essential because when running across the ground, if you're running across the ground slowly, you're not covering the ground quicker, and it's harder to get through the mud and the harsh ground without at some pace. It's just going to slow you down a lot. Although it's not a massive essential, it's still a need. When you're doing cross country, you still have to train.
Good. Good. So how about your weaknesses for this performer?
I identified 3 main weaknesses. Now the first one was arm movement and positioning. So when the candidate's running, they've got the shoulders quite tight up and their arms are higher a bit. Now that's not a good technique because it shows that you're tense and you're wasting more energy that's needed. Also, they wasn't really moving everything forward, they were swinging side to side, and that essentially makes you feel as if you're running double the distance, because you're moving across and not moving everything forward, and your pace is going to slow down. That'll affect performance and the opponents, because if the opponent next to you has the right technique and everything moving forward, they're going to be more fluent in the running and essentially running quicker. The next one is power, which is speed times strength. I noticed that the candidate had weak power because when running on grounds that wasn't particularly harsh, so if it was just like grass that wasn't really harsh, they found it easier, whereas when it come to racing in harsh conditions when the mud was thick, it looked like it was really hard to get through it, showing a weakness in power, because that's what power is used for in cross country. The final one is reaction time. Now when the candidate sets off, you can see the opponents in front first, so they're like behind. So they essentially have to use more energy to catch up early on in the stages. Now that'll affect them running, because when it comes towards the end of the race, as they have used up the energy early on in the race, they're going to be more tired towards the end and may essentially not have that kick at the end to outwit their opponents.
good. So out of these weaknesses then, what would you say is the major one, and how are you going to combat this? What are you going to do?
The major weakness I found was power. Now it obviously affects across country running, essentially in the harder conditions, because you don't know on the day where you're going to be racing and what the conditions are like. So if you already have that power, you know it's not going to be an issue. You don't have to be worried about the course. The time scale I've used is 6 weeks by doing 2 1-hour sessions a week, just focusing on power, trying to improve it. I've done various exercises to improve power, both upper body and lower body, because you have to have a balance within your body. Before they do the actual main activities, they have to do a warm-up, cool down. A good warm-up would consist of a pulse raiser and stretches. The pulse raiser is to increase your heart rate. It'll do things like maintain venous return and stuff to like keep the blood flow going. Also warm your body temperature up so it's used to running in harder conditions. It'll also consist of static and dynamic stretches that just increases the flexibility, which gives you a wider range of movement and also preventing injury earlier on. I've done various.
It's okay.
I've done like various different activities in order to improve power. So regarding the legs, one of the first ones I've done is hurdles. So by doing hurdles, it'll increase flexibility and strength in the hip flexors. Also the hamstrings, it'll increase the power, so you'll be more powerful when you're running. So if you set out, you can set out 6 to 8 hurdles, and you do 6 sets, rather than running through them, you put them closely together and you're stepping your lead leg over first, and then your back leg over afterwards. And as the training goes on, you'll be adding foot weights to increase the strength, just making the legs a bit more powerful. Then the next one is diving skips. So this improves biomechanics and the power from the heel to toe. So this is actually when you're touching into the cross country and actually kicking out of it. I can't.
Okay, just take time. So why did you say you do it? What was it? The diving
skip. So it's like skipping easily, just like as you do as a kid, just skipping along. But as you continue, you want to bring your leg up higher, so you're pushing off the ground a lot more. Each time, try and do it with more force and getting up higher. You can again also add leg weights, because leg weights is a good thing for adding power, because when you take them off, you're going to feel like a lot lighter and bouncier. Now, a good thing for the skips is to exaggerate your arm movements, so to bring your arms up more, because then that's working your upper body as well, and it gives you more drive when pushing off the ground. The next activity is step-ups. So this again increases your flexibility and strengthens your calves and your quadriceps, therefore increasing the power. So you can do this by getting a small bench or a chair, and by stepping up. As you step up, so you'll do 10 on each leg, for example. You'll step up on your left foot and bring your right foot up, so you're in like a high lunge position, and you'll have to hold that for 3 seconds and exchange on each leg. So, for example, we'll start off on 10 on each leg, and as it goes on, we'll move up to 30 on each leg. And that's mainly working with your calves and your quadriceps and making them a bit more powerful. The final one is leg weights again. Now, rather than doing different activities, the candidate will just be running with the leg weights on, so things like speed, because your power is about speed as well. We won't be doing long distance, it'll be doing like 200 reps or 300 metre reps. So if they continuously train with leg weights, when they take them off and they're going to do another 200, they're going to potentially be a lot more powerful and find it a lot more easier. They're just like some of the activities, and there's a variety of activities so it doesn't become tedious, so the candidate finds it a bit more enjoyable. Also they'll have to do a cool down, so cool down usually similar to a warm up, like a slow pulse, well it's not pulse raiser, it's like a slow jog, to slow down the heart rate and cool the body down, and also some stretches to prevent cramps and get rid of any lactic acid that may occur.
Okay. you obviously mentioned some aspects of principles of training there. How are you? How would you avoid potentially sort of injuries again?
To avoid injuries and make sure the candidate is warmed up and cooled down properly. Because without warm and cool down, that is essentially what gives you the injury, because you've not got rid of lactic acid, you've not warmed your muscles up, and it's going to affect the tendons as well. Also, I don't, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. So, you've obviously come up with a good set of strengths and weaknesses and your action plan. The final thing with your action plan is, how do you know that performers are going to make improvements, potentially? What can you do?
We're going to, what I decided we'll do, so we're going to do a test before and a test after. So what the test literally will be is a jumping test. So the first time we'll set the candidate off and we'll get them to jump and touch a meter and see how high they can actually jump. And after the 6-week programme, they should essentially get higher because that's showing the power. Right, mainly in the legs is what we want to get. Yeah,
okay, good. So, how can you relate your discipline or your sport of running to historical content, for example?
Running developed from a popular recreation. It was known as something called pedestrianism or race walking, which was a festival or celebratory event. It was mainly participated physically by the lower class, whereas the upper class would wager on it. So the upper class would like bet money on who they thought they would win. It was also a chance for the lower class to go from rags to riches, so obviously by the money that had been bet, certain individuals could prosper. Women also developed it with smock racing, so that was seen as undignified for women to do because they get sweaty and it was vigorous exercise, so again only the lower class physically took part and the upper class would wager like the dresses, so the lower class would win the upper class's dresses. Yeah. It was, as a pop racket, began to develop cross-country running because it brought a sense of community as it was a festival event, all classes and whether you was upper class came, so it kind of increased the popularity that way. It also developed through public schools with a game called the Hare and Hounds. That was developed with the boys from the schools. It provided a sense of competition, so the pupils would compete against each other, and also as the house system, which is related to the stage 3 of Dr. Arnold's social control. Also brought values such as leadership and improved hygiene and stuff, so that's why it developed as a popular recreation, because it brought values to people. People thought it was like a good sport. Also, boys from the schools would go to university, own workplaces and spread their ideas through schools, which also through the workplaces, which also rationalised it. And with the increase in transport, which is why we do it worldwide today, so we could then compete against nationally, against other countries or just other cities, which is why we play it today.
Good. Can you explain what you mean by rationalise?
So by rationalising it, it's like the transition from making it into something that's not really a well-known sport to something that it is today. So it's things like transport, improved in communications, which helped the rules become. So standardised rules came apart. So things like we now have referees, we now have like false starts and stuff like that. So as it's a standard game, it can actually be played nationally.
Okay, very good indeed. Okay, how about then going on to aspects of maybe the psychology element of development? Could you expand on that? Perhaps towards your performer, maybe.
So regarding the candidate, if they are willing to improve in cross country or they're putting a plan, they should set goals or put up a specific plan in order to keep the motivation. The goals should follow the SMART targets. So training should be specific to what they want to achieve. So for this candidate, I want them to achieve power, so that training is all specific to achieving power. The results should be measured. So I should be able to.
No, it's okay.
So I'll be able to see the improvements and identify strengths and weaknesses and what they're doing. the goal should be achievable within the time limit. So I set 6 weeks, so we should be able to achieve that candidate to improve power within those 6 weeks. This links to the goal being realistic, and that's pretty much similar. So it's realistic.
Good. Think of any more?
It should be agreed. So the goal should be agreed within the coach and the player. So this puts everyone in an equal playing field, so they've both got the same focus. Also, again, improve motivation for the individual as they know that they're on the same level as a coach. They should follow a specific time scale as well. So for this candidate, I have chose again 6 weeks, but only do 2 sessions, focusing on that. Sorry. Sessions must be enjoyable as well, so this prevents them becoming tedious. So that's why I've done more than one activity to do every time, and as we go on I'm going to be increasing it, adding like foot weights and things like that. And now the final one is the results should be recorded, so that's why I've done a before and after jumping test, so I can actually see the difference in the results and see if they've actually improved. Now there is various benefits to goal setting. So one of them is to encourage the player and to improve the motivation, because they've got an actual plan of where they're going. They've got to be more motivated to get like PBs and higher positions. It also increases the confidence and self-esteem, because they are on the same level as the coach. They've got confidence in the coach and they've got confidence in the plan to continue. Also provides persistence. Because if you know exactly, if you're running without any focus, you don't know where you're going to go, you're not going to have persistence, whereas you know exactly what you're going to achieve. You're going to obviously be more persistent and want to achieve it. Also gives a specific direction. It makes it clear what you want, what the candidate wants. So obviously this candidate wants to improve the power in order to increase the speed over the harsh mud. So that's what we're going to do. It can also help control anxiety and stress as well. So this could be before training or before competition. So there are also different ways. If you was to be anxious, there are also different ways. There are also different ways to combat anxiety before a competition. So there's different cognitive and somatic ways. So some of the cognitive ways are positive self-talk. Now that's a way the athlete endorses their own ability by talking to themselves. Also by going over mental rehearsal. That's imager. Yeah, imager is going over mentally rehearsing the techniques and how they're going to do it, which is going to raise their confidence and commit themselves to the actual task that they're going to be doing. There are also somatic ways of releasing anxiety. So one of the somatic ways is biofeedback. Now biofeedback is just the way your body changes to anxiety. So things like your heart rate increasing, your body temperature increasing, which links to PMR, which is positive muscular relaxation. Now that's noticing the symptoms of anxiety, which is biofeedback, and relaxing each muscle individually, in order to relieve anxiety, making you feel more relaxed, which is going to better your performance.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you're reducing your anxiety. What else is it going to possibly reduce?
Aggression when you're in the sport. So aggression in the sport causes frustration, which is going to lead to a decrease in arousal. So it's going to make sure you've got the right arousal levels to perform at your best ability.
Okay, good. Can you expand on any more aspects of arousal, maybe? Just testing you here.
There's different ways to get your arousal back to the right level. So say you're performing, you become frustrated. There are like different things you do. So your coach could pull you out, or you yourself could count to 10.
So basically, what were those methods that you mentioned?
Like somatic and cognitive and somatic methods. So it could be either you or your coach. So you're finding yourself becoming aggressive. So say you're running and an opponent cuts in front of you and it gets you really annoyed. Rather than retaliating, you could either just take your time, take a recovery, slow your pace down a bit, take a breather, relax yourself, and then get back into the game.
Okay, good. Right, how can you link physiology to cross-country then?
A cross-country race probably lasts around, the average under 20 cross-country race lasts around 30 minutes, so you're covering about 7k over the cross-country. So that means that the aerobic energy system is going to be predominantly used because that lasts up to 2 hours. So the aerobic energy system lasts around. No, the aerobic energy system follows 3 stages in order to resynthesize APT. APT is what gives you the energy to actually move your muscles.
What is ATP? Do you remember?
It's like a chemical compound that releases energy,
Okay.
or allows you to have energy. Now the first stage of the aerobic energy system, it pretty much follows it pretty much follows the lactic acid system. So glycolysis happens, which is when the glycogen breaks down into glucose, which is then broken down to uric acid through enzymes. Now, because there is actually oxygen in the aerobic one, that uric acid can be converted into, I don't know how you say it,
Try.
acetyl-CoA, something like that.
Yeah, good.
Which is what actually is different from the lactic acid. So this acetyl-CoA,
Yeah.
if that's how you say it, diffuses into the mitochondria, which is where it takes place. The mitochondria is in the muscle, and therefore enters the Krebs cycle, which is stage 2. It's then broken down into hydrogen and carbon dioxide, and they're waste products. Now, through that reaction, 2 ATPs are resynthesized, which is why you continue energy for such a long period of time.
Okay.
Because the hydrogen and carbon dioxide are waste products, the carbon dioxide is breathed out, and just getting rid of the waste, and the hydrogen enters the electron transport chain, which is the stage 3. Yeah, so.
Can you remember what happens at that stage?
So at the electron transport stage, it's where the most ATPs are produced and where hydrogen is removed. So the hydrogen gets split into ions and electrons.
Okay, good.
The ions are breathed out through water vapour, and the electrons continue down the electron transport chain in like a controlled manner. So that allows 34 ATPs for every 1 glycogen molecule, which shows that it's so 34 ATPs are produced for every 1 glycogen molecule. So that shows that it's a high energy out. We've got a high intensity energy output, which is why it lasts for like 2 hours.
Good. Can you tell me how many ATPs are produced in total from that aerobic system that can be used? So have a think. So how many made it through?
2 and then 34, so 36.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Although it is cross-country running and that is like the predominant energy system, you still will use lactic acid system. So you use the lactic acid system when the intensity increases. So when you're running uphill, or when you're overtaking an opponent, or like you're in the last 200 metres of a race where your pace will pick up. The lactic acid system only lasts around 3 minutes, so that's why it's for fast, high intensity. And it's another way of resynthesizing ATP. The lactic acid system begins with anaerobic glycolysis. So that again, just like the beginning of the aerobic one, the glycogen is broken down into glucose, and the glucose is broken down into uric acid. But this time, because during this, 2 ATPs are released, which is what resynthesize. But because there's no oxygen present, the uric acid changes into lactic acid, which is just a waste product, and obviously because there is no oxygen, that waste product can't get removed until after the race. So that's why when you're running up a hill, or the candidate will be sprinting into the finish, they'll feel like a burning fatigue sensation in the legs because it's not been ready until after the performance, until you consume oxygen.
Good. I'm just going to try and stretch a bit more. At the start of the race, what energy system was used? Right at the start.
The ATP PC system of use, so that's
Okay.
probably for like the first 10 seconds.
Right, can you expand on that?
So the ATP PC system is just a way of resynthesizing ATP. So because ATP alone will only last about 3 seconds, it obviously has to be resynthesized. So that's the first thing that'll be used. So when you initially set off, the ATP PC system will come into place and resynthesize.
Okay. What's so important about the start of your race then? Those 10 seconds.
The first 10 seconds are crucial because if you've got 400 people on a start line, you've got to ensure that you push off quicker than those in order to get your position, because although it is like 6k, if there's so many people, it's harder to get round and it's just going to lower your performance if you don't get in a good position early on in the race. Okay.
Good. Can you think of any other physiological aspects that you could maybe contribute to cross country?
There's ergogenic aids, but mainly for cross country it's mainly like dietary requirements because it's endurance race. So one of them is carbo loading. So that's where the candidate will increase the amount of carbohydrate consumption prior to the race, so whether it's a day or two before. This increases glycogen stores, and it will increase their endurance and also will allow them to perform to a higher standard. Also reduces fatigue as well, so the next day when they're competing, say they're running for half an hour, there's less chance of them getting fatigued because they've took a high amount of carbohydrate consumption the day before.
Good. What else might be important with possibly your diet there? Obviously you mentioned carbohydrates. What else could it be?
You could sodium loading.
Alright, go on, can you expand on what that is?
That's a way of like it reduces the lactic acid, so you can take it before or after. It prevents lactic acid from producing and also gets rid of lactic acid.
Do you know how it does that? Can you remember how it's done? What are the waste products from lactic acid?
CO2.
Yeah, anything else? Can't remember. Okay. No, that's fine, Anything else to add?
Hydration is important as well.
Okay.
So the candidate will have to make sure they're hydrated. This obviously does many things, so it can improve the muscle as well, so prevent cramps, and also if the body's hydrated, I can't remember. It's
Well, just think yourself. Why do you use it?
Prevent dehydration. Obviously, dehydration's not good for anyone whether you're performing or not. Because can't remember.
Okay. Are you happy with what you've done?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. Well done. Not too bad at all.